What's up, my peeps? You're watching part 2 of the prediction game video for Aries versus Bobby Roode. In this video, I'll go into more detail on why I think Bobby Roode's going to win the championship this Sunday and become a 2-time TNA World Heavyweight Champion. Bobby Roode's my pick for this match, and there's a bunch of reasons why. So I'll go over those reasons. I'll also go over as to why maybe Aries could also win this match, because this is an unpredictable match. Anything can happen. Either of these two guys could win the match, but there's a couple reasons why I think Bobby Roode's gonna win this. Now, initially when this match was first announced, there was no stipulation, there was nothing special, no stipulation basically added to the match. It was just, a regular matchup between the two guys, normal rematch. But this past Impact, they added a stipulation to the matchup where the loser of this match, so if the loser of this match does not get a rematch, so let's say Aries wins. If Aries wins, then Bobby Roode cannot request another rematch for the championship as long as Aries is the champion. And the same goes if Bobby Roode wins the championship. If Roode wins the title, then Aries, even though he was the champion and he just lost the title, he can't request his rematch. So neither guys get a rematch, so this is their last encounter for the championship, at least for now. So with this whole thing added now, it makes the match even harder to predict. Before this stipulation was added to the match, I still thought this match was a hard match to predict, to call. I initially, when I was looking at this match and trying to predict who would win this, I could see either guys winning, but I thought maybe Roode had the advantage here, and Roode would win because when you think about it, there's only one more pay-per-view after Hardcore Justice before Bound for Glory, and that's No Surrender. So what I was thinking is that, if Roode wins the championship off of Aries from Hardcore Justice, then Aries, would get his rematch, the usual rematch that the champion gets after, he loses the championship. He would get his rematch against Roode at No Surrender, and then Roode would beat him once again, and that would be it for their whole feud and their whole storyline. That'd be it for the Bobby Roode versus Aries thing, because then Bobby Roode would have beaten Aries twice. Now, on the other hand, if Aries would have won, would have retained the championship at Hardcore Justice, then he would have already beaten Bobby Roode twice, and Bobby would have already, cashed in on his rematch clause. So what would Aries have done at No Surrender, or who did he defend the title against at No Surrender if that were the case, if that would happen? Aries wouldn't have too much to do, because when you think about it, all the top guys are in the Bound for Glory series, and they're going to be occupied, with that Bound for Glory series finals, at No Surrender. So who would Aries defend the title against? But that's, before that stipulation was added. So back then I was thinking, Roode was going to win because it makes more sense, because he would actually have something to do at No Surrender, and that's defend the championship against Aries one last time. But yeah, they added the whole stipulation now, so it makes it even harder to predict. But I still think Roode's going to win. For reason number one, this whole James Storm Bobby Roode thing. It makes sense to end it at Bound for Glory for the championship. So James Storm, the top face, would finally get his rematch, would finally get his revenge and win the championship off the guy that screwed them over for the championship like a year back, almost a year back. It really looks like James Storm has a very, very good chance at winning the Bound for Glory series. He's the current #1 guy on the leaderboards. He's got the most points, 66 points. So even if he doesn't end up being the #1 guy in the leaderboards for the Bound for Glory series, I'm sure he's going to be in the Final Four. So, I think he's going to win the series in the end, at No Surrender. And for that reason, I think Roode's going to be the champion, so they could face off for the title. And, on Impact, they continue the storyline between Roode and James Storm. They continue having them, in segments and stuff. You have Roode accusing James Storm of being the leader, or being the guy behind Aces and Eights. So there's still, hate, I guess, between the two guys. They're still kind of feuding, even though the main thing right now for Roode is Austin Aries, just because he's a champion, he took the title off him. But really the main thing, the main reason why I think Roode's going to win, the championship at Hardcore Justice is that I'm pretty sure James Storm's going to win the Bound for Glory series. He returns from almost quitting, he was depressed, I guess, or something like that. He was considering quitting kayfabe wise, and then he comes back, wins this battle royale in the Bound for Glory series, starts picking up points, the fans are behind him. It's this typical face storyline, this face coming back from almost quitting, and then finally in the end he wins the championship. So it just makes sense, while something like James Storm winning the Bound for Glory series and then facing Austin Aries wouldn't make too much sense, considering he's still got unfinished business with Bobby Roode. And if you think about it, if James Storm, let's say James Storm isn't involved in the title match, let's say Roode isn't involved in the title match at Bound for Glory, so they're both, in non-title matches, maybe facing off against each other, and then Austin Aries, he defends the championship against somebody else wins the Bound for Glory series, then what happens with Aces and Eights? Who faces Aces and Eights? Because I'm pretty sure they're going to have some sort of matchup where there's, this TNA team, a team of TNA superstars facing off against Aces and Eights. And if they do that, it makes sense to actually have at least one of, these guys, Austin Aries, Roode, James Storm, but especially James Storm and Austin Aries face off against, Aces and Eights. But if James Storm, faces off against Roode for the championship, then Austin Aries no longer has a title match at Bound for Glory, so he could be in that TNA Superstar team against Aces and Eights, and he could lead the team or whatever. That's if they even have an Aces and Eights versus TNA match at Bound for Glory series. That's just, me speculating. So yeah, it's no confirmation or anything like that. Now, let's look at Austin Aries and why maybe he could win this, this match. Maybe James Storm is not going to win the Bound for Glory series. Maybe Samoa Joe could win the Bound for Glory series. It would make, some sort of sense. Maybe having Samoa Joe versus Austin Aries. Just recently at Slammiversary, they faced off in a X Division Championship match for the championship, and Austin Aries won that title, won that match. So this time at the biggest show of the year, Slammiversary is like the second biggest or third biggest show of the year. At the biggest show of the year, they could fight for the biggest title, the most important championship, the TNA World Heavyweight Championship, and maybe Samoa Joe could win and finally get back in that main event scene and win the championship after so many losses. But he's been doing pretty good in the Bound for Glory series. He's number 2 right now with 50-something points. And maybe he could even win the Bound for Glory series match this Sunday. Who knows? Now, also, you could have Austin Aries versus Kurt Angle. That would be a freaking awesome match. There's no real storyline behind that. But it'd be a cool match to see. You could also have Austin Aries versus AJ Styles. But really, AJ Styles is pretty behind in points, so I'm not sure if he's going to make the Final Four. If he... if they want him to make the Final Four, he's going to have to win a lot of, basically, almost every single matchup on Impact leading up to No Surrender, and every single match maybe on a house show that he has. And if Austin Aries ends up, winning the championship or retaining the championship at Hardcore Justice and faces, somebody else other than James Storm at Bound for Glory, then maybe just Bobby Roode and James Storm could have a one-on-one match at Bound for Glory, non-title, of course, since Austin Aries would be the champion. Or maybe Bobby Roode would be revealed to be a part of Aces and Eights, and you could have Roode leading the team of Aces and Eights to face off against James Storm, who leads the team of TNA wrestlers, TNA superstars. There's a bunch of things that could happen. I'd love to see Austin Aries versus Kurt Angle or AJ Styles or Samoa Joe at Bound for Glory, especially Austin Aries versus Angle. But what makes the most sense, in my opinion, is have Roode win the championship at Hardcore Justice and defend it against James Storm at Bound for Glory. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. I'm out.